Bang! Neeves Knives. I'm Jared, and in this video, man, this one was tough because I tried to pick out my top 10 most toughest knives in my collection that are folders. So they have to be a folding knife, and I tried to pick out literally the ones that I think would beat all the rest. And it is tough because, and this is not one of them. However, this is the Benchmade Griptilian Large. I do think this is an extremely tough knife. Why is this such a tough knife? Because of this locking mechanism. There's springs pushing up this bar that go behind there. So you have the stop pin and then this bar. In order to break it, you have to push through this bar, which springs are pushing it up, making it stronger. So even if there's pressure on the spine, it has to break that bar. So that makes this knife incredibly strong. Now, trying to figure out which one's stronger between that or the compression lock, which the compression lock has a liner that wedges in between the stop pin and the blade. So you have to basically snap that stop pin. And in this case, that stop pin is more heavier duty than this pin. So, but I'm pretty sure that I'm not 100% on this, but I think that it's been proven that the access lock is a little bit stronger than the compression lock. I'm not 100% on that. Either way, both of these were knocked out. So I'm going to explain why. So we have the Benchmade Griptilian and the Spyderco Shaman that are not on the list. So what beat them out was the ball lock from the Spyderco Manics. And this one got beat out too by the same knife, but a smaller version. Why is this one beating this one? This one's a bigger one, more hard use, more heavier duty. Well, I replaced the cage on this one with a titanium cage. This one has a plastic cage, which I do believe if this one would beat this, or the Griptilian would possibly beat this because of the plastic cage. But when you replace the cage, which this is incredibly strong, guys, with the plastic cage, it's incredibly strong. I love this knife, but I wanted to replace the cage and make it even stronger. So the Spyderco Manics with the titanium scales and cage, this one beat those ones because I do believe that this lock would be stronger than those. And however, I do agree though that the blade would snap before this blade. This blade would definitely outbeat this blade in pressure. So who knows which one would actually win? You know, in all reality, the Benchmade Griptilian might win just because of its blade stock. Well, actually, I think they're close to the same stock thickness. But the Shaman, it's hard to say. But I'm going to say this one just because the lock is stronger. Now, let's get to the next one. It's hard to talk, and now this isn't in any order, guys. That was just to kind of give you an idea of my mindset and where I was going with all this. Now, it's hard to talk about hard-use knives without pulling out the Sebenza 21, and I always get the comment, oh, that's a gentleman's knife. It's not a hard-use knife. Who hard uses those? You guys must be out of your damn minds because the Sebenza 21 not only is incredibly strong. I mean, look at that lockup. This lock bar is super heavy. It's super strong, and the tolerances are extremely tight. That lockup is so damn strong. It's insane. In order to break that would take insane amounts of pressure. Now, aside from that, people hard use these constantly. I constantly see videos or pictures of just beat to death Sebenzas. So people hard use these. There's a lot of people that carry these as their primary tool. Next. Now, this one I'm arguing on. This one's a little bit arguable, but why did I pick this one? I picked the Artisan Proponent because of the pin. So yes, the liner is very thin, even though this is very strong. You know, a liner lock is still incredibly strong. Is a frame lock stronger? Sometimes. It's mostly about geometry more than the thinness, because I can pull out knives right now that you would think wouldn't out strengthen another knife, but they absolutely would, just because of lock face geometry versus their lock bar. All the pressure pushes straight down onto the lock bar instead of making it slide out of the way with pressure. Anyways, this one you can put a pin in, and I do have the pin. Thanks to the person that donated this to me. I can put this pin in there, and then it basically makes this thing a fixed blade, because then you would have to shear off that big thick pin that's as big as this hole in order to close this knife. Now the stop pin on it, look at that stop pin. That is a massive stop pin. So this thing would definitely take a lot of abuse. It would be nearly impossible to break this thing with that pin in there. And then this brass, I mean, I know brass isn't hard, but holy cow, this thing is like 2 pounds. I don't know how much it really weighs. It's probably only a pound, but it is incredibly heavy. The beefy stock it has, it's a massive knife. It's fun, and it's easy actually to deploy. I can even do it left-handed. So very, very awesome. And it does have the flipper tab. That also works good. Very fun knife. Next, we have my Wiha Malice. Now I picked my Wiha Malice. It's a ferrum forged design because it's just a tough knife. It really is. Now this thing is also very slicey let me say this. It's slicey because of its tall grind, because it's not that it's crazy thick behind the edge, but it gets thick pretty quick. It is kind of a thick grind. Now, because of it being so tall, it's also a good slicer. I do need to sharpen this thing. This thing is not sharp at all. But the lock bar is nice and thick, nice and big, nice big steel lock bar insert. No milling on the inside. Full size titanium backspacer. It does have internal stop pins, so, very, very solid lockup. This thing is definitely a hard use, very, very tough knife. Love this knife. I am thinking about doing a regrind on it, and possibly a flipper tab delete. I just haven't decided yet. I'm always on the fence with things like that because I love the knife the way it is. Next, we have the old Hinder XM18. Now, I do have lots of different scales for this knife, including some beautiful micarta scales, and I might switch it back to just because I do like the micarta scales. It's very comfortable in the hand. This scale is just gorgeous. It's so beautiful with this blue horse or bronze horse, whatever you call it, but this is very sharp, which I don't mind at all. It's fine in my hand, but the micarta is so comfortable and so warm. But yeah, everybody knows these things are tough knives. These are overbuilt beasts. Look at all the backspacers. The stop pin is the thumb studs. So very, very solid, strong lockup, strong lock bar. This thing is incredibly, incredibly strong. But you know what's slightly tougher? It's big brother, the XM24. This thing is a beast. And my XM24, even though it is a tri-way pivot, it does not have a steel lock bar insert. So this thing is going to be even tougher because it doesn't have the steel lock bar insert. So you're going to get, even though this thing has the smoothest lock bar I've ever felt on a titanium frame lock knife without an insert, it's going to create that little bit of friction that titanium and steel will make when pressure is pushed, because titanium is softer than steel. So, it'll create a bond if you tried to close this, unlike if you have a lock bar insert, which I'm not saying wouldn't, work incredibly well, or doesn't work incredibly well and isn't still incredibly strong, and the lock face geometry has a lot to do with it. But yeah, this thing is a beast, and we got all titanium, overbuilt to the max. I mean, this thing is insane. Love it. Next, we got the whole Spartan Harsey. So the Spartan Harsey folder, no steel lock bar insert, just raw titanium. Very, very hard use. This thing is incredibly overbuilt. Look at this. 1, 2, 3 standoffs that are nice and big. You can see that the scale is not milled out. These are solid slabs of titanium. Nice big pivot. Big washer, or at least one big washer. The blade stock is super thick behind the edge. This is very thick behind the edge, and it gets thick quick. So even the blade is incredibly hard use, but it does back it up by having an incredibly strong lock, an incredibly strong build. It's stop pin, nice big stop pin. Very, very smooth too. Love, love, love this knife. Now mine does have the Mayan calendar milled into it. Very, very nice. Love this knife so much. Now I have thought about doing a hollow grind on this with a sharpening choil. I thought about a finger choil, but I can get up so close to this blade already. A lot of people, suggested, why would you get a finger choil when you can get up so close to the blade already? Just get a sharpening choil. And I agree. Might as well. And also the stop pin does land right there. So I could literally not touch right here, but just get a choil right there and then make it a, when I say that, I'm not saying make it a laser beam, make it super thin. I'm just talking about making it a hollow. Let's say 20 thousandths behind the edge, so that when I do sharpen it over time and I am using it, at least it's not going to get 50 thousandths behind the edge. Because even though it's so badass, it's so hard use, it's so tough, what good does it do to me if I won't cut with it or use it because I have another tool that'll always work better because it's just too thick behind the edge? Now, I'm not saying it's like that right now. I'm saying the more I use it, the more I sharpen it. The more steel I remove, the thicker this gets. If I put a hollow on here, I could still have a relatively hard use hollow, while at least it won't get thicker behind the edge when I sharpen it. What's your thoughts on that? Next, I did do a post on Instagram and the majority said, yes, do it, definitely. I did get a couple people saying, man, it's built to be hard use. Why wouldn't you just leave it? Now, next, we got the Microtech Socom Elite. These things are known for being just battle horses. I mean, these things are insanely tough. It is aluminum scales, but you can see all the hardware and the sandwich construction, the way it's built. You can literally take out all these screws and it will still be centered, still have incredible action, and with no play. Look at the stop pin. The stop pin is the thumb studs. Very, very big, and it is a titanium thick liner. Look how thick that liner is. And it does have a steel lock bar insert. The ergos are amazing. And I did think of that too when I thought about this, because it wasn't, I could have grabbed other knives that I would consider extremely tough and hard use. But if I couldn't get pressure behind the knife and actual muscle and strength and actually hard use it, then it doesn't matter how tough it was. So I did consider that when thinking about this. Now, the Microtech Socom Elite is very thick blade stock. You can see how thick this thing is. It is insanely thick. Just to give you another knife as a reference, here is, we'll just use the Griptilian. Here's the Benchmade Griptilian. Look at how thick that is. Yes, this thing is a pry bar, but it does get down to, I gotta drop stuff. It does get down to 15 thousandths behind the edge. So it does get very thin behind the edge, which you can actually see right here, but it gets very thick very quick. Very tough, yet pokey tip. We have an acute edge here on the American Tonto, and this one is in 204p. Very, very awesome knife. Love this knife. Next, we got the Demco AD15. Now, some people would argue that this knife, even though it's incredibly strong, yes, incredibly tough, incredibly strong, that it would not withstand spine wax. You know, if I just held it right here, hitting it in the spine, and I know that. Not saying that it couldn't handle it still, because it definitely could handle some, but it's not going to be able to withstand some of the other knives on this list with spine wax. However, with just pressure on the spine, I think it would do better than you think. But besides that, let's take that off the table. When it's in my hand, I'm squeezing this knife and I'm making it stronger, making it impossible to close without snapping this blade, because the lock is back here. I have to literally pull it back to close it, because you see this groove right here. Watch when it comes around. We have this bar. So this is a titanium bar. The spring is right here. And the spring is constantly pushing tension this way, while it has a steel bar right here that locks into place, making it, one, incredibly strong just the way it is. But then you put my strength behind it. I'm pushing pressure constantly. So, and it's a very thick grind. It is a thick bowie knife and very tough. Very hard use, very innovative design too. This one is the Joker edition, by the way. Demco AD15 Joker edition. Next, we got the USMC Fighter Folder. This is Medford USMC Fighter Folder. It's basically a folding K-bar. This thing, the lock bar tension on this thing is so heavy. I mean, you don't even want to deploy, like, this is not a fidget knife. This is not a knife you sit here and fidget with, because you will get a blister. Look at this. This lock bar tension, I just want you to see how strong this thing is. I'm pushing, I'm pushing, I'm pushing, I'm pushing, I'm pushing, I'm pushing. That is how much tension it takes. I mean, it is incredibly strong. And that's why when you close it, it doesn't just drop down or anything like that. You do have to put muscle behind this flipper tab. If I just pull it, that's all that'll happen. I have to actually snap it. Just like when I reverse flick it, I have to give it a little oomph. Now, most people unlock it like this. They pry with their finger, because this thing does hurt. I mean, it is a very powerful lock bar. So I always see, like, the Medford guys, they always do it like that when they close them. But, or two-handed, you know, where you can, like, kind of put pressure and pressure at the same time. But incredibly strong, no milling. Oh wait, is there milling? No, hell no, there ain't no milling. Why did I let me see this. No milling, all the way through and through. Solid bricks of titanium. Titanium backspacer. I think this is steel, right? I don't know. I'm not positive, actually. It might be titanium. Let me just check that really quick. Yeah, I'm sorry. This is a titanium pommel for, you know, knocking people out, or what, you know, for hammering. Very thick. It does feel like a brick in the hand. Very thick behind the edge. Hollow grind, though. It does have a hollow grind, so it actually cuts relatively good, considering, because it's a tall grind. I mean, this is a tall blade. It basically works just like a fixed blade. Awesome, awesome knife, though. What a legend. Now, last but not least, the Demco AD20. Why did I make this number one? And everybody's going to start screaming at me, where are the triad locks? Where are the triad locks? I don't own any triad locks, guys. I'm sorry. I do have one here, but it's not mine. It's not, I don't own it. Okay. I apologize. I'm sorry. I'll do better next time. But the shark lock. The shark lock is about the same strength as a triad lock. At least that's what Demco says. That's what Andrew Demco says. He claims that it's about the same strength as a triad lock. So in that case, we got it right here. So fill in the blank of whatever triad lock you love and just put it right here, because this thing is incredibly strong. Listen to that thing snapping. Listen to that. I love that. Oh, I love that. Now, what's happening is we have a spring right here that's pushing this bar into place. Ooh, and it just snaps right in. Look at how big that stop pin is. So it basically, you see the groove down in there? This bar is gonna snap down in there, and it's basically pushing kind of like a triad lock between the stop pin and this groove, and the spring is constantly putting tension. This thing is so solid. I mean, I can't flex nothing out. I'll even put my hand in the way. I don't care because I know it can't fail. And then look how smooth it is. That's crazy. Stupid smooth, very innovative, and just incredibly badass. Now the next thing, I can get so much leverage behind this knife. It is very thick behind the edge. Well, I'm not gonna say very, it's thick behind the edge, but the grind is incredibly thick. Now, one of the reasons why this is so strong or so tough is because of the grind. If this grind was thin, it wouldn't matter how strong this lock is because the blade would snap. You know, in order to have an incredibly strong knife, you do have to have a blade thickness and grind that matches the lock strength. So this one, is just incredibly thick, and that's why, because they wanted to make sure that it was going to be so insanely strong that you would never have to worry about the blade snapping. 20 CV blade steel, G10, and just, insane badassery right here. All right, guys, that's my top 10 most hard use knives that fold in my collection, at least based on what I could come up with or my thoughts on it. There are a lot of other knives that I think, if I did a top 20, they would be right here along the side of some of these knives in some way, shape, or form. But yeah, I think this is the list. I love you guys. Thank you guys for watching. Peace.